There's an old saying that if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. But if you teach him how to fish, he'll eat for life. But what about feeding a whole community?
We want to know whether catch and release fishing for sharks is worth more in the economy than catch and kill. Recreational shark fishing in South Africa is growing in popularity because of the overfishing of edible species like your cabolleux and your geelstaarts and that kind of thing. And these guys actually approached us and said to us that they'd like to contribute towards science. They want to know what's going on with the species that they target. So our question is as well is how well are the animals surviving the catch and release process, and how can we educate anglers to perform better, to have their best behavior ethically when they catch and release sharks.
Bronze whalers are a small to medium-sized shark that are found right around the South African coast. Strong and athletic, they are beautiful sharks with a distinctive olive grey to bronze back and a white belly.
The Big Catch Bronzy Festival is aimed towards conservation, so we have at least 25 volunteers within tag teams up and down the beach. The guys target bronze whalers to keep the sharks as safe as possible. They use barbless hooks only, which means that the hook sets in the mouth but comes out really easy, and that reduces the time that the shark spends on the beach. But what the beauty of this for us is that we have these anglers who are extremely passionate about their sharks. They love having us around because they want to know what's going on. So we kind of piggyback on the anglers. They catch the sharks for us, and we learn from the sharks that they catch, and then we feed that information back to them so that they know the best practices.
The scientific teams are spread out along the 20-kilometer stretch of beach. Tags are checked and prepared in advance. Sterile syringes are filled with a broad-based antibiotic that also stains the vertebrae. This will be injected into the shark's lower abdomen, and it provides future researchers with a date-specific mark in the animal's vertebrae. With all preparation done, the scientists just have to wait for the anglers to land some fish. And while the gulls take a rest in the warm sun, an inquisitive young cormorant investigates the anglers' bait boxes.
When it comes to catch and release fishing, some fish species are quite delicate. They don't survive the catch and release process. So what we're trying to do is look at the bronze whalers, how well they react to catch and release fishing. And the way that we're doing this is by collecting the angling data that complements our tagging data. So we tag the sharks, but we also take things like where the hook was located on the shark when the animal's caught, what size hook were they using, how long did the shark fight on the line for, and how much time did it spend out of the water once it was on the beach. Then when we get a recapture from that shark, when we get that tag shark back, we know exactly what stress that animal went through, and it gives us a good idea of how well they handle catch and release fishing.
The anglers say landing the shark is the most difficult part of the catch. Air exposure is one of the more obvious contributors to the shark's mortality. Think how much time you take to catch your breath after you've run a long distance. Now imagine finishing that run and having to go underwater and hold your breath. That's similar to what a shark experiences being out of water. A shark needs water flowing over its gills to breathe, so the teams need to work fast. The tags are placed on the side of the dorsal fin to have the least amount of impact on the shark as possible. The tags are made of plastic and nylon, relatively inexpensive but durable in the ocean. The shark is measured, injected, and its overall condition is noted. Gentle handling of the shark is vital to its survival. They are not as strong and robust as we first thought, and considerable damage can be done to the spine and tail if sharks are dragged and not carried correctly. Luckily, there's enough scientific manpower to ensure this shark is supported correctly and is safely returned to the ocean. But why is there so much interest in the sharks and the impact that the anglers are having on them?
The reason why we need to make sure that sharks' populations remain healthy is that they're apex predators. They're the cleanuppers of the ocean. So they're the top predators that keep the ecosystem in check. The worry nowadays is because our oceans are so overfished, we're finding a lot of the commercial boats and the commercial fishermen are actually targeting sharks to catch and kill and to export for meat. So now we're seeing a lot more of these apex predators being taken out of the ecosystems. The more pressure that's put on these populations, the more time it takes for them to recover. So we have to keep a close eye on the number of fish or the number of sharks that have been taken out of the populations.
Current market value for a dead shark ranges between 18 rands to 45 rands per kilogram. That gives the average size shark a once-off value of around 4,000 rand. That's not a lot of money for a 20-year-old adult shark.
Within South Africa, there's probably around 35,000 of rock and surf anglers. They put a huge amount of money into our economy, and they generally catch and release the shark. So they're catching a shark, letting it go, it lives to be caught another day.
Sport and recreational anglers spend around 2 billion rands per year on fishing. They not only buy rods, reels, hooks and line, they also pay club and license fees. They buy food and bait for their days out, and they need petrol and cars to get them to their favorite fishing spots. Sometimes they stay overnight in hotels or campsites. Often the whole family comes along, and they also need to eat and be entertained. Their spending spills out into the communities in a knock-on effect. It does not take rocket science to realize that catch and release fishing could not only feed but also sustain whole communities on an ongoing basis while ensuring shark populations are also sustained long-term.